Good morning. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world, following us, watching us. Welcome. Today, we bring for you, as part of our series of talks, Jesus Illuminates Our Path. We have with us our friend Marcelo Netto, uh, who is going to be explaining, who's going to be going over the topic with us. Marcelo, are you? Hey, Marcelo, how are you doing, sir?
How are you, my friend? How are you? Good morning to you, Glossio, and to all the gentlemen and ladies that join us in this morning. Thank you very much for this invitation.
I really like this topic. Jesus illuminates our path. I mean, something that we always need is enlightenment, especially as we go through all kinds of tribulations. I mean, of course, you have your whole discourse about it, but when you go through good times and bad times, right? We need to be enlightened. We need to be illuminated. Hey, Marcelo, let me talk a little bit about you. Let me introduce you here. So you hold a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. That's quite fascinating. And you're currently the president of the Spiritist Federation of Florida and president of Layout Publisher, the Fab Publisher from the Brazilian Spiritist Federation. And you're also the vice president of Conscious Living Spiritist Group of Florida. Thank you for all the work that you've done, and thank you for taking time off your busy schedule to talk to us about Jesus Illuminates Our Path. At this time, I'd like for us to, before you begin your talk, for us to close our eyes and look inside of us so we can say our initial prayer. Thank you, Lord, for the opportunity for us to be here and discuss such an interesting, such an important topic in our lives. Open our minds, and especially our hearts, so that we can assimilate the knowledge that Marcelo is going to bring to us, but especially give us strength, give us wisdom, so we can apply the little things that we've been learning, apply all the knowledge that Spiritism has been provided to us in our decisions as we go through our trials and tribulations, and also as we go through our good times. Bless us, guide us, and illuminate our lecture this morning so he can bring us the message that we all need. So be it. Marcelo, welcome once again. And sir, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Glausio. Once again, it's a pleasure to be here, joining in this series of talks promoted by the United States Spiritist Federation. It's a great joy, it's a great honor to be here. Jesus illuminates our path. We have achieved great technological advancements, yet stagger behind on the aspect of the emotional being. People have a hard time dealing with their feelings and emotions, or better yet, deciphering what is what when it comes to their hearts and longings for the souls. Perhaps this is why the World Health Organization has released several reports and findings related to depression, as if a contagious virus is infecting people all around the world by the masses. Suicide numbers are growing by the second at an alarming rate, especially in thriving countries. The World Health Organization reports that nearly, and this is a rough number, it's not exactly precise because data, it's difficult to find everything, but that reports that nearly 800,000 people die worldwide each year from suicide, which is about one person every 40 seconds, if you do the math. So globally, it is the second leading cause of death for those between the ages of 15 and 25. So it seems as if while we advance in one area, another one is not addressed, such as our connection with the Creator. The spirit evolves utilizing two wings, if we can say, the moral one and the intellectual one. There's one question on the Spirit's book, the question 780, that I'm going to show a slide and we're going to read it together. When Allan Kardec asked, does moral progress always follow intellectual progress? And the good spirits, the benevolent spirits answered Kardec, it is its consequence, but it does not always follow it immediately. But Kardec is very inquisitive. He asked again on the following question, how can intellectual progress lead to moral progress? By making good and evil understandable. For humans can choose between the two. The development of free will follows the development of intelligence and increases the response of humans for their acts. Look at the question, the nature of the question that Allan Kardec brought us, and the answer that the spirits, the good spirits, the benevolent spirits delivered to Allan Kardec. But it's interesting because Kardec then asked on the following questions. Then, how can one explain that the most civilized cultures, the most enlightened cultures are often the most perverted? And that it's really interesting because we will see the answer of the Spirit. Complete progress is the goal. But like individuals, cultures only reach it step by step. And the Spirit keeps answering until they have developed the moral sense. They may use their intelligence to do harm to others, to do evil. So morality and intelligence, the two wings, the two forces that the Spirit has within, only will achieve balance over time. So often, it seems as if we have lost contact even with ourselves, forgetting that the solution for finding the greatest treasure of all, peace, lies within. Many start to believe, many of us, in our fraternal conversation, we see that many start to believe that happiness is an utopia and giving up in a haste to try and find it. But Allan Kardec, the codifier of Spiritism, could foresee this as an issue that would assail humanity in the future, which is why he was led to ask the benefactor, the high order spirits, the following questions, the question that we're going to show, the 942. Once some people think that these counsels about happiness are a little banal, this is the question. Once they see them as being commonplace or as platitudes, and once they say that the secret to happiness is to know how to bear up under misfortune, this is the question. And the answer that the good spirits bring is, there are those who say that, and they are numerous. Many of them, however, are you persons for whom the doctor has prescribed a particular diet, they would like to be healed medications and continue to hand themselves over to indigestion. See, this is us, most of the cases, this is us. So there is a prescription that is effective and accurate for achieving true happiness. And the doctor par excellence who prescribed was Christ in his gospel. But the question is, in the search for happiness and joy throughout the centuries, how many of us have been willing to apply it to our lives, to our problems, and to the pain we feel? It is true that the message often touches our hearts and makes us emotional. We see this sometimes when we hear a lecture that touches us, a movie, a message that we receive. It brings tears. We sometimes shed tears. We applaud the teachings, hope for better days. Yet, we don't apply these teachings that have been made available for all of us for over 2,000 years. So it seems as if we carry out the following dialogue. Master, I wish to be happy, but I'm not willing to change anything within. And then we adopt an immature attitude of continuing to carry on the very same habits towards life, hoping for different results. We have this kind of internal movement. It will not work. How can we accept that in the human heart, two opposite feelings could coexist? How come? How come rancor and happiness could coexist inside of a human soul? How come hurt and harmony could coexist inside of a human soul? Hatred and peace, it won't work. And such antagonist feelings cannot be supported in the same space within our souls. And this is why so many are willing to give up on their old ways. It takes work, my dear friends. Lots and lots of work. Happiness based on egoism, immediacy, hedonism is not a model that has been able to profoundly modify creatures. It seems that the gospel of Jesus has not been profoundly understood by us. When we read on the Gospel of Matthew, on chapter 7, verse 7, on the next slide, no, there's not a next slide. Let me go back. Chapter 7, there's a passage that I love very much, and I am going to read it. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. What does it exactly mean? Many of us believed that divine providence would be a limitless fount of wishes for our immature and inferior desires. But when Jesus states, ask, and it shall be given you, he's not saying, ask what you hope for, but rather what we really, as immortal spirits, really need. Courage to face difficulties, strength to overcome ourselves, overcomes the old man that lies within, still lies within, allowing for space for the new man, for the new human being to grow. When he says, seek and you shall find, seek the kingdom of heaven in all his justice and glory within, and everything else we receive would be added based on the ability to handle that which we ask for, the development of the kingdom of heaven inside our hearts, based on the understanding and development of the faculties of our hearts and soul. For where our treasure is, where exactly is our treasure, there our hearts will be also. We're going to find this in Matthew 6:21. And what and where is our treasure? Let's think about what is the objective of our lives in these days of transition. We have too many circumstances surrounding our lives. But what is exactly the objective of my life, since I understand that I'm going to have several lifetimes and the pursuing of happiness lies within, and it's going to be up to me to speed up this process. So it's not this physical, this heaven, it's not a physical location. This should not come as a surprise, for we already understand that we are immortal beings. And this physical life, as we mentioned before, is simply temporarily. That we have reincarnated to develop those wholesome virtues, to develop these virtues. The next slide, we will see when Kardec asked on question 132, what is the purpose of incarnation of spirits? And the spirits answered, God imposes incarnation for the purpose of leading spirits to perfection. And then we go back to the passage of Matthew, knock and it shall be open unto you. Once we have satisfied the first two phases of this passage, the doors towards the kingdom of peace will be open. Peace as understood by Christ in this revolutionary teaching that we're going to see in the next slide on John 14:27. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. So there's a huge difference between the peace of the world and the peace Christ offers to all of us. There comes a moment in our lives where we question if everything we have sought in life externally offer us the peace we hope for within. If you have, for example, read Paul and Stephen, this wonderful book, or have studied about Paul of Tarsus' trajectory, you will perhaps agree with me that just like Paul, we will all reach our road of Damascus. Perhaps we already have. It is the road that offers us the secure way towards a change, the road proposed by Christ, based on his gospel of love, not gospel of hatred. No, not at all. There are additional passages that talk about the kingdom of heaven, that we can extract other profound teachings. Let's go to the next slide. Blessed are they who weep, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are they who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are they who suffer persecution because of righteousness, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. This we are going to find in Matthew 5, 4, 6, and 10. So let's stop a second and reflect on these lessons. This is where Spiritism comes in and offer us that gateway towards the understanding of what he means. Without certainty about the future, these maxims would be simply nonsense. Even more, they would be a falsehood. But then you may ask, I know we have questions like that all the time, but why do some suffer more than others? Why are some born into poverty and others into opulence without having done anything to justify such a position? Why does nothing ever work out for some? Why everything seems to smile on others? But what is even harder to grasp is seeing benefits and misfortunes so unequally divided between vice and virtue. Seeing virtuous people suffer alongside and the wicked ones who prosper. So faith in the future might offer us consolation and lead to patience, but it does not explain these anomalies, which of course appear to belittle God's justice. We know this, that if this simple way of saying it seems to appear like to belittle God's justice. But the vicissitudes of life are two types, and this is what Spiritism brings us. Or if we prefer to mention, they have two different sources that are very important for us to differentiate. Some have their causes in the present life, in this lifetime, others outside of this lifetime. On searching for the source of earthly misfortunes, it will be realized that many are the natural consequence of the character and behavior of those who bear them. Let's pay attention to us. How many of us fail due to our own fault? How many of us are victims of our own imprudence, our pride, our ambition? How many of us ruin ourselves for the lack of discipline or perseverance, for wrong conduct, or not having limited our desires? How many unfortunate marriages they are because they result from calculated self-interest or vanity, and because the heart has played no part. How many disagreements and disastrous arguments could have been avoided with more moderation and less susceptibility. I always make confusion with this word when I try to pronunciate. How many ills and infirmities are the consequence of intemperance and excess of all kinds. However, if there are misfortunes in this life of which humans are the primary cause, there are others which, at least in appearance, are completely foreign to them and which seem to touch them very fatalistically. What can be said of those children who died at a very young age and who knew of life only suffering? How can we tell a suffering mother, blessed are you for suffering, or weep with the words, blessed are the afflicted, for they shall be consoled? Jesus indicates simultaneously the compensation that awaits those who suffer and the resignation that leads one to bless suffering as a prelude to the healing. Another passage and another slide that we'd like to read together on the Gospel according to Spiritism that brings us, and these pains, if borne patiently while you are on earth, will save you from centuries of suffering in the future life. Upon re-entering the world of spirits, humans are like laborers who show up on payday. To some, the Lord will say, "Here is your pay for the days you worked." To others, the fortunate ones of earth, those who lived in idleness, who placed their happiness in the satisfactions of self-centeredness and in worldly pleasures, he will say, "Nothing is owed to you, since you receive your pay while on earth. Go and begin your task again." For those who see only corporeal life, pain seems unending to them, and it presses on them with all its weight. It is quite hard to bear witness to life with a completely materialistic point of view. Quite hard. See, if we go on chapter 9 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, "Blessed are the meek and the peace-loving," we find a very meaningful lesson, the lesson of patience. And we're going to see on item 7, it brings that pain, and what the Spirit is saying, it's not an apology to pain. There's no masochism feelings in Spiritism, not at all. We don't put pain like as a something that we have to endure, that we have to face. No, this is something that it's the sowing, and now we're gonna have to reap. But pain is a blessing that God sends upon the elect, us, maybe pretty much the whole humanity. And the message brings is like this. This is the beginning of message. Patience. Item 7, chapter 9. Blessed are the meek and peace-loving. Pain is a blessing that God sends upon the elect. Therefore, do not become troubled when you suffer. Instead, bless Almighty God, who through the pain of this world has marked you out for glory in heaven. Be patient. Patience, too, is a form of charity, and you must practice the law of charity taught by Christ, the envoy of God. The Spirit friend who writes this message, who has walked our steps and know it is not easy, offer us the following message that we are going to read together. Life is difficult, I know. It is composed of 1,000 nothings, which are pinpricks that end up hurting us. But we must consider the duties imposed on us, the consolations and compensations we receive in return. And then we will see that the blessings are more numerous than the sorrows. The burden seems less heavy when we look to heaven than when our brow is bent towards the ground. Courage, my friends. Christ is your model, is our model, who signed this message, a Spirit friend. This message was received in Havre, is a city of France, in 1862. Are we on our road to Damascus, towards to Damascus? This is the question that I ask myself every single day. Or perhaps we have chosen another road. This is a question that I'm asking, I'm posing to you, and I'm asking to myself. When Saul of Tarsus, before becoming Paul of Tarsus, loses his eyesight, we learn about a very deep message behind it. That the vision was now inwards, no longer directed towards external aspects of life. We find that the peace of the world can often be compared to a stagnant body of water. It seems peaceful on the surface, but deep within, it is murky and sometimes very, very deplorable. It is not one where we can dive deep and see, or better yet, engulf ourselves in the peace proposed by Christ. It's completely different. How much energy do we use trying to control everything and even everyone? Trying to play God, believing to be in control of everything. We don't have this power. As if exterior factors held the happiness and joy we seek. The peace proposed by Christ is that of a serene conscience, of the certainty that everything is according to God's will and guided by divine laws. It is found in the faith in the future life and God's benevolence and justice, this infinite justice. It is no longer that deplorable stagnant water, but a clear and luminous fount, always in motion, always alive, always in abundance, always streaming freely and connected to divine providence. The peace we find with Jesus' teachings and lessons is aligned with our awareness of the need to change within, of finding oneself in the good fight. When Paul of Tarsus stated, "I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith." We can look into the world outside and hear the commotions and the loud noises of hatred, battles of egos. Yet, inside, we hear the calm waters of peace, reminding us that the battle is not out there, is within. Leon Denis states that the secret for happiness is found in the construction of the better self, an investment made on our behalf, where we are no longer enslaved by exterior motives, but rather free to develop and cultivate the virtues within. Another great lesson that we can share with you guys is also contained in the Gospel of Matthew on chapter 13. It's on verse 47 to 52. And I put this aside so we can read it together. The parable of net. Once again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was cast into the sea and caught all kinds of fish. When it was full, the fisherman, pulled it ashore. Then they sat down and sorted the good fish into containers, but threw the bad fish away. Every single day, we find ourselves on our boat. We fish daily. We fish emotions. We find challenges. We find disagreements, ideals, thoughts. We fish all kinds of sentiments. But at the end of the day, how many of us reserve some time to sort the good fish from the spoiled one? Do we conduct at the end of the day mental hygiene as much as we are aware of the need to conduct a normal body hygiene? Because we cannot fight the good battle when we keep the symbolic catch of the day, hatred, resentment, hurt, complications, etc. You name it. That's why when St. Augustine brought us the recipe for joy, found in his answer to question 919A of the Spirit's book, when Kardec asked, give me a practical way to sort out this kind of, how can we better ourselves? Is there like a practical way for us to do this movement? And St. Augustine bring us the answer. Let me read it for you. This is St. Augustine stating, do what I used to do when I was living on earth. At the end of each day, I examined my conscience, reviewed what I had done, and asked myself whether or not I had failed to fulfill some duty, and whether or not anyone might have had reason to complain about me. It was thus that I arrived at knowing myself and at seeing what there was in me that needed to be reformed. Those who every night would recall all their actions during the day and would ask themselves what good or evil they have done, praying to God and their guardian angel to enlighten them would acquire great strength for self-improvement, because, believe me, God will assist them. And he keeps reading, he keeps saying, therefore, ask yourselves about what you have done and toward what aim you act in particular circumstance, whether you have done anything that you would blame in others, and whether you have done anything that you would not dare profess. Also ask if it pleased God to call me at this moment to enter the world of spirits where nothing is hidden. Would I cower before anyone gaze? Examine what you may have done against God, then against your neighbor, and lastly, against yourselves. The answers will be either repose for your conscience or an indication of a wrong that you must amend. On the Gospel of John, on chapter 16, verse 33, there's a passage of the Master. I have told you these things so that in me, in Christ, we may find peace. In this world, you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. Many of us would say, how could Jesus have stated this if he was ended crucified? It seems difficult to swallow. For many people, I heard this before. The question truly is, how am I analyzing this lesson from Christ? And what happened with the immortal eyesight, that of the Spirit? Where did Christ go after his crucifixion? And where, for example, Pilate and Caesar, supposed victors of the world, went? Where they go? Where did they go? Pilate and Caesar and Christ. See that we still pretty much focus on our lifetime. We are spiritists, we are Christians, but we still live our lives based on a very materialistic paradigm. I'm not saying that we are going to stay here completely in meditation, not paying attention to the world, the material world. Of course, this is not at all. This is not the proposition that Spiritism brings to us. The proposition is different. Take advantage when you are incarnated, so you can progress, so you can evolve, so you can better yourself. Because here we're going to have the limitations of the body. We are going to age. We are going to face these multitudes of characters surrounding us, working with us, living with us, how can we exercise the muscles of patience, of benevolence, of tolerance, if you're not subject to someone different than us? We're not spirits yet. We are in the process of acquiring more virtues, getting rid of our vices. But that's why on question 132, when Kardec brings what is the purpose of incarnation, is for us to evolve, to progress, to acquire all these virtues so they can become our real assets of the soul. Something that once is totally acquired by the Spirit, no longer are going to leave us. Sometimes I think about like, oh my God, I lost my patience with someone. It means I never had patience before, because if I have this virtue called patience, I would never lose it. So we are in the several lessons to be subject to circumstances, to situations that force me is not exactly the word that I would like to say, that subjects us to acquire patience, sometimes benevolence, so I can forgive the offenses, so I can find and reach a better position, and to understand the purpose of life. How many people discarnate and leave the physical world in the condition of apparent conquerors of the world, the material world, and arrived in the spirit world as failed spirit beings. How many others leave this world in the apparent condition of losers and enter the spirit world in the condition of illuminated beings? There's one passage that I love very much on the Gospel according to Spiritism, on chapter 2, and brings a message of a spirit that signs as a queen of France, when she stated in this chapter, "My kingdom is not of this world." The Spirit's teachings, an earthly kingship, and we can find on item 8 of the chapter 2, and we're going to read together so we can all see the real importance of acquiring this peace within, bringing the gospel of Christ within, reformulating our lives, doing something better. Even though we cannot acquire this position of being a pure spirit, step by step, being perseverant towards this movement of perfection, bringing us joy in attracting the company of the benevolent spirits or the guardian angels, whatever the word you would like to use. But we are going to develop something different within, change our vibration, elevate our thoughts, in making the connection that it's always available since the beginning of times with the Creator and Jesus. And the Spirit called a Queen of France states in this chapter 2, "Who better than I can understand the truth of these words of our Lord? My kingdom is not of this world. I lost myself in pride while on the earth. Who then could understand the insignificance of earth's kingdom if not I? What of my earthly kingdom did I bring back here with me? Nothing, absolutely nothing. And as if to make my lesson more terrible, He did not even accompany me to the tomb. I was a queen amongst men. As a queen, I thought I would enter the kingdom of heaven. Such delusion, such humiliation, when instead of being received as a sovereign, I saw above me, far above me, beings whom I had deemed quite small and whom I had despised because they were not of noble blood. Oh, how I then understood the bareness of the honors and grandeurs that I so eagerly sought on earth, in order to prepare one set place in this kingdom: self-denial, humility, charity in all its heavenly forms, and benevolence toward all are required. You were not asked who you were or what position you occupied, but what good you did, the tears you wiped away. It gets me emotional sometimes when I read this passage. Oh, Jesus, you said that your kingdom is not of this world because one must suffer in order to reach heaven, and the steps of a throne cannot lead us to it. Only the most trying path of life do. Therefore, path through the briars and thorns, and not amongst the flowers. People run after earthly things as if they were able to keep them forever. But here, there are no more illusions. They soon perceive that they had only been chasing a shadow, and that they had neglected the only possessions that were solid and durable, the only ones that they use in a heavenly home, the only ones that give them access to it. Have pity on those who have not gained the kingdom of heaven. Help them with your prayers, for prayer brings people closer to the Most High. It is the link of union between heaven and earth. Do not forget that, and sign a Queen of France. True virtues are often established based on how we interrelate with others, being patient, being tolerant, and forgiving the offenses. This is why pain and tribulations are blessings if we know how to take advantage of them. There's no doubt that Christ is with us. The question that I am posing today is, are we with him? Are we with him? Meaning in harmony with divine laws, because according to the benevolent spirits, we are only unhappy when we distance ourselves from these laws. Genuine peace resides in understanding that this is fruit of the heart, a heart completely aligned with the greater love. Love is patient, love is kind, love is tolerant, and charity and love your neighbor is the maxims that we can always repeat to ourselves. And let's pay attention. If we are truly being charitable towards our dear brothers and sisters, benevolence towards everyone, indulgence towards the imperfections of others, and forgiveness of offenses. I know it sounds sometimes very simple to say things like that. It sounds that the one that they are speaking to you have achieved like a level of understanding and is like in a state of purification. Not at all. I am in the same level of each and every one of you, struggling sometimes, but facing moments of happiness from time to time, and always trying to construct, to build within the sentiments that connects us with the Heavenly Father and towards our older brother, our master and guide, Jesus, because he is proposing us a revolution inside of our hearts, a complete revolution that will change the face of humanity. And I'm not talking about like for us to this religion or that religion, spiritism, are going to open our doors to make connections with the other creeds. And we will understand that only together, loving one another, we are going to achieve true happiness in the face of the earth. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace, said Jesus once. In this world, we all are going to have trouble. But he said, take heart. I have overcome the world. And he's inviting us to overcome the world, not the world outside. The world outside will be the consequence of the transformation of this man, of this woman, or the humanity. Let's try to do small things. No, let's be courageous, because the small things, which is transforming the world within, are going to little by little transform the rest of humanity. This is what I would like to say. I thank you so much for this opportunity, and I thank you, the Spiritist Federation, or the United States Spiritist Federation, for this blessing moment in this blessed Saturday. Thank you very much.
Marcelo, thank you. I really enjoyed your lecture. I liked all the passages from the gospel, not only from the gospel according to Spiritism, but also from the New Testament. I like the reference that you made about the fish net parable. It's just like that, right? I mean, you never know. We're surrounded by good fish and fish which is not so good. So according to the parable, when you see the bad fish, you're supposed to throw it in the fire. So there's all this negative energy, negativity, and it's up to me to select. So thank you for such an interesting, enlightening lecture. We have some questions here, so we'd like to hear your input. Check this one out from Freddie G. Ricardo. Changing your lifestyle around a late age will be helpful enough for you before the Creator? Excuse me. Or will you end up going to the purgatory or umbral? Thank you. That's an interesting question.
It's an interesting question. I would say never is too late. Never is too late. At any time, we're going to have, of course, eternity. We're going to cross eternity with our own immortality. But if I can give you an advice as a brother, don't give up. Never. It doesn't matter if you start in the early ages of your actual existence, your actual life, or in the end of your existence. Initiate this movement within. And I am sure, because intentions, if your true intentions is to modify yourselves, I'm for sure you will find the joy of the benevolent spirits that are going to guide you for a new phase in life. But be courageous. Take the first step. Take the first step. It doesn't matter if it's you have 100 years old or you have 1 year old.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for highlighting that we're immortal souls. So, whatever, doesn't matter. There's never a late stage in our physical life because we have eternity to progress.
Yes.
And we carry our lessons with us.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Here's one next question. How should we deal with the religious intolerance that we are seeing nowadays? Very interesting question. In this country and around the world.
This is something that it constantly comes to us in nowadays of dissensions, paradoxical ideas, polarization. We cannot change outside. We have to work within. The result of outside will be the result of the transformation that we have within. Can you imagine if we go back in time 2,000 years ago, when Jesus was about to be in prison and Peter got the sword and cut Malcolm's ear, what Jesus says? Don't do this. He said something else. I'm going to put something more like simple. What does it mean with when Jesus gave us this kind of advice, gave this advice to Peter? Because the Pharisees had another idea about this kingdom of heaven, but Jesus was bringing something completely different. Was in a certain way some kind of intolerance among the new ideas that Jesus was bringing to the humanity and the old ideas. But Jesus did not change the way that he preached. He said to Peter, no, nothing related to violence. So if outside we see this religious intolerance, this is outside. Be you the change that you want to see in the rest of the world. Remember St. Francis of Assisi when he asked Jesus, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. And let's try to work diligently inside of this inner transformation, because outside, of course, we're going to face things like that. But what we're going to do, we're going to find affinity with the discrepancies, the craziness outside, or you're going to try to work out in this spiritual muscles that for a long time has been like lacking for working out. Do your work within, and the rest is the rest. It's not like maybe the best explanation, but I hope the gentleman or the lady that asked this question understand, because we are going to find nowadays in this world, in these times of transition, this kind of situations very, very often.
I think you answered quite well, to be honest. Next one. Is pain a requirement for progress? In other words, is it possible to evolve without suffering?
Of course. But we choose sometimes the wrong way. Constantly we choose the wrong way. We are sowing for so many centuries situations, problems, death, so many complications. It's natural for us to reap what we have been sowing during the course of our existence, our immortal existence, because this is exactly the law of cause and effect. Well, we are engineers, yeah? You are an engineer too, yeah? Every effect has a cause. If the cause is good, of course, the effect will be good. But if the cause is wrong, is complicated, is evil, we're going to have to reap exactly what we've been sowing during the course of our existence. But there's something else. Let's assume that we did something really, really bad. Love covers a multitude of sins. This was the first letter that Peter sent to the apostles and many other communities. Love covers a multitude of sins. What does it mean? It means like we can neutralize in a certain way maybe the pain, maybe the effect that we've been sowing during the course of our existence through love, through charity, indulgence, benevolence, forgiving of the offenses. We see, Glaucio, one of the biggest problems, challenges that humanity faces, it's the lack of forgiveness. And we constantly come at the same, sometimes at the same family, the same country, sometimes the same circumstances, so we can make amends and try to learn how to live with the diverse, understanding that we have different levels of growing. We grow in not exactly in the same speed, but because we are faced with the diverse, we face sometimes we got together with someone that maybe we did something wrong, to learn how to forgive. And once we put this in practice, love in action, forgiving, being indulgent, being tolerant, being patient, maybe the pain that we supposed to be enduring, it's not going to be with the whole impact, the full force. Sometimes it's going to be alleviated a little bit, and sometimes greatly, because of the amount of love that we put in situations in our lives, towards the others, towards everyone. This is the great lesson that Jesus brought us, and is still echoing inside of our hearts. That's why reincarnation is so important, because we don't learn in one lifetime. We are hard-headed, so hard-headed. We need to go back several times. Now, Marcelo, let's try to exercise patience. Okay, next life, let's exercising tolerance. Let's exercise all kind of virtues, little by little. We cannot go from kindergarten to the PhD graduation. That's not, doesn't exist such a thing. Step by step, life after life, and we will acquire this.
Thank you. Thanks for providing such an explanation that is actually very, very optimistic, very upbeat. Thank you.
We have to be. We have to.
I think we have our last question coming up. The world of the regeneration will be amongst us when the gospel is present in all households. What about those places that don't even know the gospel even exists, or that don't recognize, accept Jesus?
See, once more, we are focusing in one lifetime. We are going to reincarnate. Even though if we don't know Jesus in one, for example, country, we have reincarnation. We might be subject to the teachings of Jesus that comprise this love, this infinite love, in another lifetime. But there's something else, because we have this feeling about no, the gospel of Jesus in the format that we understand has to be the one that drives the whole humanity. What is the gospel of Jesus? There's one thing that I would like to read, and this is something that it's really, really important. Let me get this. If you give me 1 second, I'm going to pull here on my screen, and we're going to read it together, because this is the introduction of the gospel according to Spiritism. Let me put it for you so we can read together exactly this. Look what Allan Kardec brings us. It's over here. Introduction, the objective of this work. It's on the first chapter of the Gospel according to Spiritism. The subject matter contained in the Gospels may be divided into 5 parts: the ordinary events in the life of Christ, the miracles, the prophecies, the words that served for establishing the dogmas of the church, and the moral teachings. Although the first 4 have been the object of controversy, the last, the moral part, the last, has remained unassailable. Before this divine code, this belief itself bows down. It is the ground upon which all sects can meet, the banner under which all take shelter, whatever their beliefs may be, for it has never been the object of religious dispute, which has always and in all places originated from matters of dogma. Moreover, in arguing over such matters, sects would find in the moral teachings their own condemnation, because most of them are more attached to the mystical aspect than the moral, which demands the reform of the self. For humankind in particular, this code, like the moral code, is a rule of conduct embracing all circumstances of private and public life, the principle for all social relations founded on strictest justice. It is finally, and above all, the infallible path to the happiness to come, a corner of veil lifted regarding the future life. It is this part that is the sole object of this endeavor. So when Kardec brings this in our introduction, he brings like the moral aspect of the gospel. He's not talking about like the gospel, like the Old Testament. Of course, we need to study and to understand the analogies of the Old Testament, the circumstances, the New Testament, with the passages that brings us a tremendous amount of lessons of forgiveness, of love to us Christians, because Spiritists are Christians too. But what about the others that doesn't know Jesus? The moral aspect. Because why? Let's go back to question 621 of the Spirit's book. Where is written God's law? It's inside of a Christian heart, a Jewish heart, a Muslim heart, in the heart of humanity. We all have the seed waiting to be awakened. The moral essence, the moral part lies within each and every one of us. And we have reincarnation. Sometimes someone that never heard about Jesus Christ, and I doubt it, but exists, he might reincarnate in a place that the gospel of Jesus, not the dogmas, not the miracles, not the prophecies, but the moral aspects are bringing to this person. And he will, makes sense to me. It makes a lot of sense. And maybe we're going to find another Spiritist workers joining us forces to spread the good news. I don't know if I make myself clear. I know it's a long answer, and I invite you all, especially when you see this question again, to read the introduction of the Gospel according to Spiritism, when Kardec brings the objective of this work.
Quite interesting as well, because he always talks about the predecessors of Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
all those spirits that came and who brought a messages that were preparing us.
Yes.
So I really like part of the explanation, the fact that we might reincarnate in any different culture, any different nation, but the bottom line is the moral behavior. Is the law of God in our conscience. Thank you, Marcelo. I think we are done with our questions.
Okay.
So next time. Thank you. Donna, thank you for being with us. So next time we're going to have Alturi. He's going to be talking about facing adversity. That's our lecture for the 30th for next week. So stay tuned for our series of lectures. That's the next one. So, Marcelo, we would like you so much to say the final prayer for us. But before that, do you have any closing comments? Also, if there are any particular projects that Leal Publishing or the Spiritist Federation is working on and you'd like to highlight, please, this is your time.
Thank you very much. Well, we have a few books on the pipeline still waiting to be launched. released. And very soon we will see like another titles. And I see the Spiritist Federation of the United States Spiritist Federation is working a great job to promoting these videos. Like these lectures on the Saturday. This is material that stays there. I know sometimes people don't have time, too many lives, too many meetings, like because in this different times of humanity. But I thank you so much for allowing me to be here, sharing a few ideas. I saw other lectures, wonderful lectures, way much better than mine. But I'm glad and very honored to be part of this movement, the movement of spreading the good news in this beautiful country that we reside in, this present incarnation, United States of America. Thank you, thank you, Glaucio, thank you, Jussara, thank you, João, thank you, Danielle, Tanya, and all the directors of the United States Spiritist Federation. It was a true honor, it was a true blessing. Thank you very much.
Could you be so kind to say the final prayer for us?
Yes, yes. Dear Jesus, beloved Master, we thank you so much for so many lessons that you leave us, you bring to us, better saying, you bring to us during the course of your passage 2,000 years ago. All these messages still echoing inside of our hearts. And sometimes we struggle to put all of that in practice. But we have you as the light of the world, the guide of our emotions and the guide of our each and every one of us as a compass so we can keep walking towards the light. Never forgets us, dear Jesus. Never forget us. We know that you don't forget us. And shout more loud into our ears so we cannot forget you. Remind us always that it's going to be towards the benevolence, the indulgence, and forgiving offenses that we are going to achieve a true peace, a true happiness. Make us an instrument, dear Lord, of your peace, but not the peace of the world, the peace that you taught us 2,000 years ago. We thank you so much. No words to say, only emotions, emotions. We ask you to bless this federation, the United States Spiritist Federation, its directors, its work, and bringing peace to each and every one of us so we can, little by little, can achieve a better position to one day be called ourselves to someone that really, really follows you. Thank you so much, and so be it.